Hi, everybody. This is Carmen DeValis, and I'm the founder of Doggies for Dementia. And I have a wonderful guest here today, Robyn Maniscalco. And you are my guest today for Experts Dig In with Doggies for Dementia. And Robyn is an award-winning author, a speaker, and founder of Wellness Resource Support. And we are going to talk about that because it is so important for resources for family caregivers. Welcome, Robyn.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Yeah, I want to say I've known Robyn for a while, and has it been 4 years, 3 years, maybe?
I think,
Uh,
yeah, a little over 3 years.
Yeah, and have watched the journey, how this has come about for you. So I'd like for you to tell our audience a little bit about how it's come about, because I think that is just so inspiring when we're in the midst of what seems like a tragedy, that something good can come out of it too.
So my mom had suffered from a very rare and severe stroke a couple of years ago, and she was in a coma and then went into a vegetative state. And we had to learn to become her caregivers, and there were not a lot of resources available. We would spend hours and hours researching, finding things that would help us around the house, would help us move her, different programs that might have been available that we could, because we had to make our house handicap accessible at this point. So there was a lot of frustration, and even just dealing with doctors and therapists who didn't always have answers for some of these things. It became frustrating. And as the time went on, and I started finding resources for my mother in the situation, we ran into so many other family members that were experiencing the same frustrations. Regardless of the diagnosis, it was just, we're frustrated because of this or because of that. And there was a lot of crossover, and people would say, where'd you get this or that? And it would be, so I decided to form a community to help people find these resources and come together and help one another during probably most people their most trying time of their lives when being a caregiver.
Right.
You're dealing with the emotion and the physical of it.
Yeah, you're taking care of someone you love and watching things happen and want to desperately help, but where do you turn? And the truth is there are more and more caregivers in the world because people are living longer and need more help. And so this is something that has evolved to be a really big, important, not that it wasn't before, but more people are now looking for that help. And I know one of the things is that we look for our healthcare providers to say, I need all the resources you could give me, right? And caregiving is like an entity of its own, how to be a good caregiver. And medical, I will say for myself, long hours and needing to know a lot about a lot of stuff and caring for people, I wasn't always up on what are the greatest resources or where to send people to get those resources. And so I so applaud you for what you've done and what you put together, and you come a long way in a short time. And I know you're still growing and doing some great stuff. And so we're going to talk about then for our family caregivers. And what do you think the top question you get? Is there a top question that you hear from caregivers?
um there I think that probably it's not necessarily that I'll get one top question. I think people, when they come to me, are like, what do I do? That's probably the question I
Yeah.
get. What do I do? What do I do next?
Yeah.
My mom was just diagnosed with dementia. What do I do next? Or my mother just fell, or my mother took off, or my father is walking around the neighborhood, and what do I do? And that's probably the top question I get. It's just that the situations vary.
Yeah.
And that's where we want to help you find solutions.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is, you talked about, people living longer and they're caring for their loved ones, but we're at a time where there are more people in what they call the sandwich generation, where they're caring for their loved ones and their children.
Yes.
So you
Yes.
have double that, and then they have, their family member maybe living in their house with their children. So you're trying to
Yeah.
raise your child and your parent who was now acting like a child. And it's a very confusing and
Rough
like,
time.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I know in my lifetime, during the time I was raising my son, as wonderful as that was also the most challenging time in trying to balance any kind of self-care, which was a joke, right? I'm like, self-care. And it was like totally out. I'm like, I'm working, I'm raising my son, and I take care of myself. Once he goes to bed, I put my feet up for 30 minutes with a glass of wine, and that's that, right? And then to add caregiving too. And I'm not surprised the most common question is, what do I do? Because we don't even know what we don't know. We don't even know
right,
what to ask, right? I don't even know what to ask. I know so little about this. And like you, families, it's like, here's your situation, take care of it. And you don't have a lot of prep time.
yep.
Some
And
have no.
you go to a doctor, right? You mentioned self-care. You go to a doctor and they'll tell you you need to take care of yourself. Caregiver burnout is a serious problem. Okay, doctor, well, what do I do?
Yeah,
What's next? And
yeah,
they don't have answers for you. They just tell you to make sure that you take time for yourself. Well, what does that look like? Who's gonna take care of my parent while you want me to take time for myself every day? Well, how do I make that happen? And they don't have the answers,
no. And
and
oftentimes that healthcare provider, uh, I will tell you from firsthand experience, we don't know a lot about that because we're not good at it either. We're, we're working long, long hours and going home, taking care of our families, and are wondering like, what, I don't even know how to take care of myself, but we know it's important to do so,
right.
especially for caregivers. And okay, so then let's talk about that caregiver burnout or taking care of oneself. And we've had a few people on already as guests. If we talked about 5-minute ways of getaways and some little things we can do, and what resources do you offer for people?
So I recommend that people connect. Connection is a huge part of dealing with being a caregiver. You want to make sure that you're not alone. Your feelings that you might feel guilt, you might feel frustration, resentment, even that's all normal. Those are all normal
Mhm.
feelings. And
Yeah.
connecting to different Facebook groups, you can search for caregiver resources, caregiver family, caregiver dementia, and you'll find all kinds of Facebook groups that you can go in and talk to others that are going through the exact same things that can offer you some suggestions on how they may have dealt with a similar situation. There are apps that you can download. There's Caregiver Dementia Solutions, which is an app that I recommend. They basically have it's not a fancy app, but basically they have 25 different situations when caregiving for somebody with dementia, and the solutions to those, and how to talk to somebody with dementia while they're going through a certain situation where they may be upset about something or having to explain something. So it gives you some guidance so you're not alone.
Mhm.
I also we do
Oh,
trainings for
let
people.
me interrupt really quick. And
Yeah.
I want to say, though, the things that you're mentioning right now, in case people are scrambling to write it down, don't worry, it's going to be in the comments. It'll be on there because it's really important stuff. Okay, carry on.
Another one for people that are struggling with those same feelings of resentment and or being overwhelmed and just depressed because now their whole world has changed and maybe they're not getting out as much and socializing and they need some way of connecting. They have apps like BetterHelp that can help you connect you with a licensed therapist, and I believe that's a subscription based, connects you with a therapist that you can either have video calls with or phone calls or even text messages. Hey, I'm having a bad moment right now. Mom's
Mhm.
really driving me crazy and I just need someone to talk to or to vent with. Because I think as a caregiver, you tend to worry about judgment of other people.
Yes.
So when you have friends and family that are not in the same situation, and you're having a feeling like, why me, how did I get this life, and you might be feeling resentful, like, I don't want to take care of my dad right now or my mom, and why can't I be out shopping, and you don't want other people to be like, oh, how dare you think that way? But it's normal. You're a human
Yes.
being, and it's normal to have those bouts of doubt and resentment. And it doesn't mean that you love your parent any less. It just
Hmm.
means that you're human.
Right.
And sometimes
Absolutely.
going to a therapist on an app like that, or reaching out on one of the resources online, can help you feel like you're not alone and nobody's judging you. So a safe.
So important. Yeah. And the, what you just talked about, the feelings that we had, the resentment, anger, frustration, and even grief over what's happening, watching your parent or your spouse go through a difficult time. And like, your life has just changed. Whatever you were planning before is not going to happen, right? It's changed. And so all of that, and then the shame on top of it for feeling that way, which, so that's the piece to say, okay, yes, I have these feelings, look at it with non-judgment, go, yeah, because my life, I'm adjusting and I'm learning, and it happens to everybody. And what do I do? So how great to have. And because I don't know, like I personally, when I've gone through really challenging times, I'm like, what can a therapist tell me that is going to make this better for me? Because it's not going to change the fact that this is my life situation right now, right? Um, but to have ways of better coping with it, or even just saying it out loud, how you're feeling is so incredibly therapeutic to just say it and to be that it's okay to feel that way. So yeah, great. It really, really important. And I do think people feel like they're the only ones, and how terrible someone's going to judge them for feeling that way, and not the
People
case.
don't understand, and that's
No,
what it comes down to.
no, yes, I agree with you totally on that. Okay, so we've got the Facebook, or other social media, the support group online, which I know we're both members of some of those, and um, there are a lot, or most are private groups. You ask to join and explain what you. There's simple questions, who are you caring for, and so they're just screening to be sure that you are a good fit. And what a great place. Right. And there's several, so you find the one that fits you best, or the ones. And then the app, we're going to have that on there too, and as well as others, and to reach out to talk with people. Yeah. Okay,
Absolutely.
what else do you got? Do you have a third one, top one?
So, well, the other concern that I get from a lot of people is regarding safety. Safety and concern if, mom decides she wants to cook that day, and they have technology that's available that can monitor the stove, that if you have somebody who's cooking, and it can ping you, whoever has the app on their phone, to say the stove has been unattended for X number of minutes. And you could have different settings, but it's a safety issue.
Hmm.
Having things safe around the house, where they have certain technology that you can put little magnets on the door, so that if the door opens, it'll alert somebody on their phone.
Hmm.
They have different watches. You could have somebody that looks like a regular watch, but it has a GPS in it if somebody is concerned about wandering off. Um, and they also have medical ID bracelets, that if somebody does wander off, and they have sporty looking ones, but they now just released a whole line of elegant. They just look like a bangle bracelet, and it has a charm hanging with a code. They put a code on it that any medical technician or cop or fireman could just use their own phone and scan it, and it would give them medical information,
Wow.
so that if this person was wandering or found or lost, they could just scan it now, and they could see, where the person lives, or whatever
Wow.
information you want them to have, whether it's medical information or just call this number if this person is found, etc. So there's
Wow.
a lot of technology for safety,
Yeah.
and that's what.
Whoa. So, even in the last 5 or 10 years, so many things have come up like this that are really life and death, right? It's life-saving things to help people, because in that, especially in the earlier stages, every day is a new day as far as what is like the cooking. Maybe yesterday cooking wasn't a problem, but today you notice, wow, that's a new thing, because that's how it comes about, and you just don't know when that's going to happen. And so you're definitely for all stages, but in the beginning too. Now you have on your wellness resource support, you've got these different resources for people to where they could go and look to choose which ones are best for them. Yeah.
I mean, people can, so the whole premise of the membership, the website, is basically that we are doing the research for you. We're going to these companies, we get discounts for our members, so they're getting discounted pricing rather than just purchasing themselves. So it saves, so we're kind of like the middleman, where we're
Mhm.
bringing people to connect to these. We don't sell them ourselves. We're just connecting you to the third parties to say, hey, this stuff is available, and you can just kind of browse on our site and look for what pertains to you and your current situation, whether it's sooner or later or something you may need down the road or things like that. So
Oh,
we work out, we negotiate pricing breaks for our members.
wow.
That's
So you're
always the
you're
plus to it.
saving lives. Yeah, saving lives and money too, right?
And
And
hours. I mean,
time. Oh my gosh,
yeah,
yeah.
you can
Like what's
spend
really,
You can spend hour. We used I think I had like another full-time job researching things with my mother, trying to find resources for her, and
yeah. And
that's
what's real, what's bogus, what's really valuable. Wow. Yes, that's fantastic. Now I know you have an offer for our viewers to here on Experts Dig In with Doggies for Dementia. Well, go ahead. You could share that. Got my words mixed up, Robyn.
we offer our membership is a lifetime membership, and I'm offering $20 off the lifetime membership for the Doggies for Dementia, and just use the code word Doggies, Doggies, during checkout, and you'll get $20 off your membership.
That's fantastic. Okay, so we're going to have the links to all of that. And yeah, I really, when I think about resources and having that, like a warehouse of resources to go and look and to choose that have already been basically pre-screened, right? And the value of that is really incredible. I can't even really put words on that. And when caregivers are, the time is one of those commodities, is they could go there instead of doing all the searching themselves, and maybe have a little time to take care of themselves too, right?
Yep.
Yeah, or another family member. That's just the thing with families, is that sometimes one, let's say if you've got three sisters, each one has a different role. The role might be to help with those resources and to go and find that and arrange that for one might be doing finances and one might be doing the direct care. And how you balance that. And so,
Well, we tell people to do what's called a family agreement. I highly recommend that to all my members and all my followers. And we're actually going to be doing a free webinar on that in the month of May, basically just going through more specifics on what a family agreement is and how to create one. So I certainly can share
oh,
that
that's
link
good.
with you when that happens. But
Fantastic.
basically, family agreement is basically usually done during an early diagnosis, but it can be done at any point. It's
Mhm.
sitting down discussing who's going to be handling what, because there are also the shared caregiving is a big thing now, as well as families are bigger, and we want to know, because when you have a big family, like I have three sisters and my dad, so there were five of us taking care of my mom. So obviously five very different personalities, and it became, there were times where we were butting heads, and then there were times where everything was fine, and it's like, well, you're going to do this or am I going to do this? So with a family agreement, it's who's going to be carrying, whether it's schedules on a daily basis or schedules with who's taking care of all the billing and the insurance questions, and taking who has the time to take care of that, who's going to
Mhm.
make sure all the prescriptions are getting refilled, who's going to take her to therapy appointments, who's going to be doing this, who's going to be doing that. So you're just assigning roles, and each
Mhm.
person is aware who's going to handle all the financials, who should be on the bank accounts, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And everybody becomes in agreement of it. And then it keeps people in their lane so that if they have a question about financials, they're going to go to, Sally.
Right.
Or if they
Mhm.
have a question about prescriptions, like mom's running low on her prescriptions, they're going to go to Joe. Joe, we need some prescriptions. So
Mhm.
that's something I highly recommend for
Yeah,
any.
yeah, because it is a huge challenge. I haven't come across many families that have the resources of siblings and that everybody agrees with everything. And when it's not talked about at some point in time, better before, but if it's not talked about at some point in time, all those assumptions, I thought you were going to do that. I thought you were going to do that, or the feeling of someone's being burdened, and they're like, well, they just don't help, and a lot of times they just didn't know. And so how important is that? So if this is, we missed the May airing at the time that this is aired, they'll be able to come back and to view that webinar at another time.
Yes, it'll be on
Okay,
yeah, we'll have the link and I can certainly share it.
good. Yeah, so when it comes out, you just put the link on there. That would be great. Yeah, because we're doing some of the COVID-19 things a little bit, you know, like in the next few weeks first. So May, for May. I forget these need to be kind of evergreen, right? So May is going to be a lot of the COVID-19, and then after that. Yeah, so I have a question. I have just a question. What single most person has had the most impact on your life? If you
You
had to
know,
pick just one.
well, so here's I was actually thinking, somebody asked me recently who would the challenge the question was to pick three people you admire and then why you admire those people. And the first person that came to my mind was Oprah Winfrey. And the reason why was because of her influence on people and her reach and the level of trust that people have for her. I greatly admire that.
Mm-hmm.
When she says something, people just listen and they understand and they connect with her. And that's something that um I admire, because that's something that I long for, is that connection with people and to be able to help people. Like she does help a lot of people, and that's somebody. But I guess somebody that admire, who have had the most impact on my life, I would have to say my mom.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for her, this wouldn't be here. This whole business
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't be here, and I wouldn't be helping others and impacting others. Yeah.
Yeah. And then seeing Oprah, who has gone from such humble beginnings to be this massive influencer and more, then you can take the lessons and all that your mother taught you throughout your life and go, yeah, now what, right? And follow those values, uh, the values. And I think when we most admire someone, we admire the values that they possess. We want to follow that stream. So that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Well, thank you, Robyn, for being our guest today on Experts Dig In with Doggies for Dementia. There's a lot of information here, so we're going to have a lot of the links and things in the comments and in the video description. And I'm pretty sure you'll see this is a blog too, so we'll have it all there. And I know we'll have you back to guest again in the future, because this has been wonderful, and resources are key. And my mind is kind of boggled with all the information you've given today. Yeah, it's really phenomenal. And when I say it's
I can go on and on.
yeah, and I mean, that's just beginning, right? And when I say that the resources are like life and death, it really is, because safety's that line in the sand, and for families to be successful at caring and still having fulfilling life and things, the resources are key. And
Also quality of life, some simple
yes,
thing can really, just the thing about the stove, to know that you don't have to worry that someone's going to be cooking in the kitchen and leave something unattended to burn and start a fire. I mean,
uh,
just the quality of life, it
yeah,
makes so much more
So
sense.
much. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I so love it. It's so, yeah, I know we'll be seeing you again. Thank you. And thank you for everyone who's watching today. And we'll see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.